Supernova, a short story. Amanda passed the nurse's station quickly. A neurosurgeon, she gave them her professional smile, soft as her sneakers on the white vinyl floor. Her logical side knew their sympathy came from a good place, but she wanted to scream. She rounded a corner and crept into her son's room, 403. He slept flat on his back in his curious way, fingers laced behind his head like some corporate mogul. He was 8. She set her backpack down, sat in the chair, and watched him sleep as the sun rose in the window blinds. Her monitor marked each moment with a hollow beep. She let it empty her, quiet her mind. Those were his beeps pinging her. Still here. Still here. After a time, she meticulously pulled a silk blanket out of her backpack. It was dark blue and queen-sized, much too large for his hospital bed, but she needed a large canvas. Oversized felt right. More for him to explore. A few months ago, she quilted a thick black satin band across the bottom edge. That's the Big Bang, she told him. Above the black band, a thinner red velvet stripe. She said cosmic microwave background, touching it, her finger slender and bony. She did most of her mirror work in the next band, which was much wider. This was the supercluster of galaxies, and she embroidered all of her jewelry into the silk. Her blue sapphire earrings for the Triangulum galaxy, a ruby brooch for Abel 1689, a jade bracelet for Hanny's Vorwerp. She used her suture needle for some of the more delicate stones. When she ran out of jewelry, she used buttons, poker chips, makeup mirrors, and a stained glass window she found leaning behind her clothes rack in the attic. She smashed it with a hammer. She used it all. Coins, guitar picks, spoons. She stitched anything into that shiny blanket until it glimmered like a sultan's treasure chest. She delicately unpacked the blanket until an embroidery loop emerged from the folds, and she draped it over her knee and pulled the fabric tight like a drum. She threaded her steel needle and embroidered it until he woke. "What's that?" he asked sleepily. "The Pillars of Eternity." "The what?" "It's a nebula, near the tail of the serpent." "Serpents? Very good. Somebody has been listening." He gave her a thin smile. She rose and kissed his forehead and caressed him. A nurse swept in with a cafeteria tray. Breakfast, cartoons. They ate in silence and let the TV volume fill the room. Bongos running, anvils falling, rockets. Much better than the beeps. After breakfast, she helped the nurse shower him, a slippery ordeal, especially with the clear plastic tubing. Once they got him back in bed, he picked up his tablet and sunk into one of his games. She used to give him 2 hours with a side eye, sometimes a Mr. Man. Now she just settled back into her chair and hauled the embroidery blanket over her knee. She said, "I'm almost done, you know." "Really?" "Oh, yeah. All I have to do is finish the Pillars in Andromeda, and that'll be it." "Cool." Ever since they looked at the moon together in the backyard, they had a thing for space. "Did you know," she said, "that scientists recently looked at microphotographic images of the brain's neurons and realized they very closely resembled galaxies?" "No way." "Oh yeah, I've seen them." "It's hard to tell the difference when you look at the photos side by side." And that's not all. Franco Vazza is an astrophysicist, and he teamed up with Alberto Felitti, who's a neurosurgeon, and they had a TED Talk about the remarkable parallels between neural networks and the cosmic web of galaxies with the filaments connecting them. And in 2020, they found the distribution of cells and brains are mathematically identical to matter in the universe at scale. "Whoa," he said. They also realized that the brain is 77% water. In space, it's 72% dark matter. "Where's the dark matter on the blanket?" "The blanket is the dark matter." Oh. She weaved these facts with her son while she embroidered. She told him how the tidal force in his body, 60% water, was slightly stronger when the moon was on the opposite side of the earth. Often, she would wrap her own story around the facts, like Einstein riding a bolt of lightning down the middle of Wiggin Street, or how Edison used a carbonized bamboo filament for one of the Ming sisters' scabbards. Hooking a loop, she told him about how he was made of stardust and how hydrogen was the most abundant element in the universe and water. Her needle flashed as she worked, and she told him how iron and nitrogen flowed through the universe and his blood. One Thursday, while she stitched in the eye of Jupiter with orange thread, she told him how the nuclear fusion of stars is strikingly similar to cellular respiration, and how that eye saw it all. She winked at him. A few days later, she told him the blanket was done, and even though he was pale and blue and thin, his eyes lit up and he smiled. She gingerly unfolded the blanket out of the backpack, her trinkets softly tinkling, and she draped it over him, a sacred shroud. "Now you are the universe too," she said. That night, bathed in the pale, dancing glow of the TV, the boy slid into a deep sleep. His eyelids fluttered, and the pearlescent ribbon of neural tissue in his brainstem, the pons, anesthetized his motor neurons and kept him still. And on the surface of this pond, a lotus bloomed, a dream. It bloomed in the fluorescent light above him, and he looked down upon himself. He giggled at the magic garden glow that pulsed on his blanket. The universe. The silk was the blackest darkness he'd ever seen, unfathomable. Darker than the night on the ocean with his father. A coldness evaporated from it. The boy gasped at the billions of stars, like diamonds under a harvest moon. The cosmic filaments, glowing strands of stardust, connected galaxy clusters that spun like fans. A supernova splashed near his pillow, a rock tossed into the pond. In a perfect circle, light ripples bloomed from the epicenter. Nebula swept over the blanket surface like smoke in candy hues, licorice red, bubblegum purple, freezy pop blue. And anti-gravitational lensing made it all look liquid. He reached down and touched the blanket. It felt cool and smooth like water, and he slid under it like a wet noodle. To his delight, he could see everything from under the blanket, too. It was translucent like a jellyfish. And while the blanket was heavier, he felt giddy under all those glowing stars and galaxies and comets that raced over him. He lay there still and calm, and watched the cosmos spin over him with a boy's wonder on a summer night. He looked down and saw the asteroid belt arcing over his ribs. Thousands of tiny rocks spun in slow motion, floating in their orbital current. He drew his toes away from the Big Bang because he knew the primordial black holes lurked there, Ton 618 and the one near Cetus. Vega winked at him from a little blanket mountain near his shin, and he drew his knee up and bent the Oort cloud and watched Jupiter roll toward him down the hill of his leg. The gas giant spun over his wide eye, and he pressed his face into the blanket like he was looking through a telescope. Jupiter's eye became his eye, and he marveled at how the rings of Saturn were so sharp, as if drawn by his protractor. And as Jupiter rotated, his gaze spun with it. Suddenly Mars raced by at great speed, quiet and ominous. He followed the red planet hurtling through the void, and there, the sun. "Whoa," he said. Like a molten, hairy egg in space, she glowed fiercely. He could see her electromagnetic field, her visible light and X-rays like geometric patterns, bathing everything in her range. He tugged on the blanket and pulled her closer and felt her warmth. He watched her fire for a spell, crackling in space. His mother's fire story bloomed from the ponds. They sat at a campfire near the river, and she explained the law of conservation of mass, a fundamental law in chemistry and physics. She told him how the father of modern chemistry, a Frenchman, proved that the total mass of a system remains constant over time, regardless of the process or transformations that occur within the system. When you have combustion, she said, melting a marshmallow on a stick, you have a chemical reaction that transforms the wood into carbon dioxide and water vapor. But the elements that make up the wood, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, are still present in the system after it burns. She pulled the burning marshmallow from the fire and blew it out and held it up for him to see. They're just rearranged into different molecules. She pulled it off and took a big bite and flashed him a goofy smile. He giggled. You know what that means? She asked. What? It means that fire right there, our fire, she pointed with her smoldering stick, is the very same fire that burned as the signals of Troy, the lanterns on the Queen Anne's Revenge, the fuel in Samuel Colt's forge, and now it's here, burning as our campfire. A crackle of sparks spat from the fire, and he watched the embers float into the black sky. He took a deep breath, and a gust of wind swept through the trees as he exhaled. For a startling moment, he felt his lungs in the trees, breathing with the branches. The veins in the leaves flared with each breath, and he felt the deer drinking across the lake, a gentle suction on the water, drawing up hydrogen and oxygen. The wind swept in and welded him to the sky, and a barn owl zipped past him. The dream followed it, racing over the forest canopy. The owl flew over a ridge and soared for a while. The boy laughed whenever his belly flipped. It felt like a roller coaster that never ended as the bird banked and ascended and cut through the wind. After a time, the owl flew over a small town. From his bird's eye vantage point, the town looked like an HO scale train set on the moonlight. All the homes were small and cozy with their amber glowing lights. The street lights looked miniature too, and the trees, plastic broccoli. He swept down and arced to a light on a tree branch near the town center. He watched the townspeople on the sidewalks below with his round black eyes. A couple out for a stroll after dinner. A man in flannel walking his dog. An elderly woman carrying her groceries home. A feeling crept up behind him. It felt like someone watching him. He rotated his head and looked back. Nothing. Just the wind whispering through the trees. But above the trees, the stars. He focused on them for a moment and realized it was the stars he felt watching. As they shimmered there in the night sky, they felt like his grandparents looking on lovingly, his cousins happy to watch a good movie. "Ha," he said. As he smiled up at them, he began to see the cosmic filaments, ghostly silver threads that webbed the vault of the sky. They connected everything, and he followed one of the threads from the Big Dipper all the way down to the man walking his dog on the sidewalk beneath him. And from the walking man, threads connecting everything like veins. His dog, the trees, the other people, him. He took a deep breath, and the filaments shuddered. The boy belly laughed. He raced upward through a vortex of lights and patterns like a rocket-fueled roller coaster screaming up through a funhouse tower, miles high. He breached the cloud canopy and shot into the open expanse of space. Everything slowed, and he felt an overwhelming peace wash through him as his carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen settled like snowflakes back into the luminous firmament from where he came, and always would be, through the next supernova.